Howdy y'all, this is Diwari with Uniquely Average Gamers, and we are going to continue on playing some Destiny. The topic of this video is going to be the Devil's Lair. The Devil's Lair is the three-person dungeon, or three-person instance that we have access to in the alpha and the beta. So it's going to have three big fights. One is going to be a series of waves of enemies that are going to be hurled at you while you're defending Ghost. Another is going to be a giant spider tank, and the third and final boss is going to be Sepix Prime, which is a giant robot ball of death. In this video, you're going to see me and my partner in crime, Mr. Imp, running through the Devil's Lair pretty much as quickly as possible so we can keep the video succinct. So we're going to be just hurling ourselves through this dungeon. Our third teammate was randomly selected for us, so we didn't get to communicate to him that we were speedrunning it, but he does a good job none the same, so we commend him on that. You will hear me interject throughout the video to talk about the different strategies that we're utilizing to make the boss fights a lot easier. So sit back and enjoy. Okay, so plugging Ghost into this little computer console here is going to activate the first big fight of the Devil's Lair. And the first big fight essentially entails surviving three big waves of enemies. The first wave of enemies is going to be Fallen, the second wave is going to be more Fallen, and the third wave is going to be Fallen and Hive. After the third wave, there's a little mini wave of enemies, and it ultimately culminates in a fight against a Fallen Captain who has more health than your average Captain. So you're going to need to gang up on him because he's kind of like a mini-boss. Now, the big takeaways that are going to keep you alive through this fight is bear in mind that there are a lot of enemies coming at you, so it can't hurt to stay defensive. We don't do that necessarily because, like I mentioned, we were completing this as quickly as we could. But if you need to play defensively, there's a very easy way to do it. Behind the console where you plugged in Ghost, where I just got killed right there, because I'm awesome, there is a cargo container. Now, this cargo container is very defensive, so if you find yourself in a dire situation, you can hide behind the cargo container, both on the ground level and on a bridge structure that's at the top of the cargo container. We always split up when we were in dire straits, so that way we weren't grouped together. Mr. Imp would take the top of the bridge, I would take ground level. The other big takeaway is that there are 4 different sniper positions that are going to be occupied by enemy snipers throughout the fight. The first wave has 2 snipers on a bridge across from where you plugged in Ghost. The second wave has 2 cloaked snipers. One's going to spawn near the garage door that has the body of water underneath it, and the other is going to spawn on a cargo container on the opposite side of the room. And then the third wave is going to be all 4 positions getting filled with snipers. So, make sure you dispatch them quickly because they can do considerable amounts of damage per shot, and if they gang up on you, you're probably not going to survive long. I always made sure to prioritize them above other enemies. Sometimes other enemies did get in the way, but make sure you kill the snipers first, and you're definitely going to see the dividends. So in conclusion, for the first big fight, stay defensive. If things get hairy, hide behind the cargo container behind where you plugged in Ghost. Always prioritize the snipers and dispatch them first. And work as a team to gang up on Fallen Captains and the Fallen Captain at the very end of the fight, which is going to have considerably more health. So as long as you get good teamwork, you'll be fine.
But just so you know, there's more Fallen and Hive on the way. down. We can move now.
So in this big arena is where you're going to have the second big fight of the Devil's Lair, and that's against more of a boss. This boss is going to be a giant fallen spider walker tank. They pop up in the open world and public events as well, so you're fighting another one here, you just only have 3 people. Now he does have a lot of adds with him, so you do want to dispatch them quickly. There's a little pond area in front of where the boss spawns that has a fallen captain with a couple different adds in front of him. It's pretty helpful to dispatch them pretty quickly. And there's also going to be 4 snipers strewn throughout the map as well that you want to take care of quickly as well. 3 of them are going to be on the same platform where the spider tank spawns, so pick them off quickly. There's going to be a 4th sniper in the upper level of a broken building. There's a little alcove up there, and that's to the right of the boss if you're facing the boss. So take care of all 4 snipers because they can be a real nuisance if you don't dispatch them at the beginning of the fight. As far as the boss is concerned, you damage him by essentially attacking his legs. When the legs have taken enough damage, one of them will explode, and that causes the boss to sort of break down and expose his core. We always called out when the core was exposed so we could have everybody lay into the core as quickly as possible. The more damage you do to the exposed core, the faster this fight goes. Now there are a couple different tips for maximizing your DPS against this boss. Namely, you want to keep on hurling your grenades at the boss on cooldown. Your supercharge abilities also want to be used on cooldown as well, so that way you can make sure that you're taking advantage of as much DPS as you possibly can. The more AoE fields you have on the boss, the more you're just continually laying into his legs, and the more you're hitting him with your supercharge abilities, the faster he is going to die. When he dies, all the enemies in the arena that are still alive will not die, and you're also going to see a garage door behind the boss open up and usher in an additional wave of adds, but they don't really do too much. We dispatch them quickly. Now, when the boss is debilitated, when the core is exposed, you are going to see another wave of adds spawn. There's going to be a fallen captain with a couple additional adds that are going to run back down into the pond area. So make note of them. As far as the boss's attacks are concerned, he has a big cannon on the top of him. Dodge that, it's telegraphed by a big red laser sight. There's also a mortar ability that the boss has that fires 4 mortar shells at you. There's an audio cue that says that this is coming off, so when you hear that, get behind cover because it can kill you quickly. And the third and more pesky ability that the boss has is he'll randomly throw grenades out that are going to just bounce around the room. They're essentially just bouncing betties. They're very sporadic, and they can one-shot you if they're close enough. So if you see him throwing those grenades out, get a good safe distance. By the way, you did just see me get hit with that mortar ability, so I'm not joking when I say that it causes a lot of damage. Stay defensive, attack the legs, maximize DPS against the boss's core, and dispatch the adds as they come out so not only can you get them out of the way, but collect the useful ammo that they're going to be dropping. If you got that, you got the Spider Walker. And then we're going to pop up later on when it's time to kill Sepix Prime. So it's not too far until you encounter the room where you
This
fight
is
Sepix
Devil's
Prime, which
Lair.
is the final boss of the Devil's Lair. Sepix Prime is a giant robot ball that has 2 attacks. We're going to talk about that here in a moment. When you first enter the room, Sepix Prime is going to be invulnerable. He's going to have a protective force field around him. You kill all the lesser enemies in the arena to activate the fight. You will see the shield then remove itself from Sepix Prime. He can then become vulnerable. When he's vulnerable, you want to be aiming at his direct center. You're going to see a little purple piece of plate metal. That's where you can get your crits. So, if he's an eyeball, think about aiming directly in the pupil. As far as maximizing DPS in addition to this, make sure you're throwing your AoE field grenades on the boss that explode on impact. And also, if you've spec'd into either your Nova Bomb or your Fist of Havoc to leave an AoE field, that can be useful on this boss as well, compounding with your AoE effect grenades. For hunters who have no AoE effect grenades, we got away with using the Scatter Grenade. It would break apart on impact and then cause damage to the boss quite quickly. Also, using Golden Gun on the boss is effective, although it couldn't hurt to save them for the captains around the arena. Now, when we say captains around the arena, we can start talking about the different adds that are going to spawn. As the boss lowers in health, more adds of higher difficulty are going to be spawning. There's a couple different places that they spawn from, primarily from little corridors that are on the sides of the room. From the left of where you enter the arena where you fight Sepix Prime, you're going to see a little doorway, and this doorway is going to spawn 2 Vandals and a Captain. So kill them quickly because they can be a nuisance. You will also see fallen dropships appear, and remember the dropships can fire cannon-like volleys at you, and they can drop Bouncing Betty grenades into the field, so you want to make sure you're dodging them. The grenades and the cannons do hit pretty hard from the dropships, so bear that in mind. Now the dropships, of course, are going to be dropping lesser enemies, and they're going to be dropping them near the back of the arena. And when they spawn, there are quite a few of them, so save some of your AoEs, maybe a rocket or so, to dispatch the field of them quickly. Of course, they're going to be dropping ammo for you, which is going to help you destroy Sepix Prime even faster. Now, like we mentioned earlier, the boss has 2 unvarying modes of attack. He has a energy projection that's going to fire in volleys of 3, and they explode on impact. They're very, very well telegraphed, so make sure you're dodging them. And the second ability is that he has an AoE that emanates from him when you are standing close to him. So if you are standing close to Sepix, bear that in mind because it does hit hard. The boss himself will be floating and teleporting throughout the room, so make sure that you're adjusting where you're throwing grenades, and of course, where you're aiming. Sepix Prime himself is a lot easier in the beta than he was in the alpha. There's not as many adds, and the adds that do spawn are weaker. So, I have confidence that you'll be able to get through Sepix Prime. Just make sure you pile on the DPS, keep your teammates alive, and dispatch the adds as they come around. When the boss does die, make sure you run under the spot where he died, because he will either drop house banners, which you can turn in the tower for extra glimmer, or he will drop ether seeds, which you can use to increase the amount of glimmer that Fallen give you. That buff that increased the glimmer lasts about 10 minutes, so you might be using it twice throughout the Devil's Lair, but it can significantly boost the amount of glimmer that you farm per run. So remember, loot the boss. These little items are indicated by clear triangles that drop under the boss. You can pick those up, and that's where you find the loot. So, congratulations! Once you do all this, you've killed Sepix Prime.
Well done.
Sepix Prime cast a great shadow over our city. With its destruction, the fallen devils will grow weaker. But we must stay vigilant. The fallen are crafty, and they'll find ways to survive. They always do.
Okay, so that wraps it up for the Devil's Lair. Thank you for watching. If this was enjoyable, give it a like, comment, subscribe. As always, we appreciate every single view we get. If you and your friends did it differently, by all means, give us your strategy in the comments. We like hearing different takes on, the same goals. So make sure you check us out on Twitter, UA Gamers, and also we got a lot more Destiny coming up. This has been Diwari with Uniquely Average Gamers, and you're definitely going to see me on the inside of Destiny. Take it easy.